guys?
Good.
Have you seen Zoolander? Like
Yes.
the old Zoolander? Remember when they're on the computer and they're standing around it and they're like, where did all the files go? It's kind of like us. This is a very serious class, so you need to raise your hand, do all those things. All right, I quit. I'm a little punchy. I worked a late night last night. My name's Rich Tift. I'm TFO with the DEA and Grand Junction Police Department. This is Jason Greenfield. He's a special agent with the DEA. So just to give you a heads up, this is a very, very laid-back class. We're not formal instructors. But the problem with this is we're being videoed right now, and it's making me very nervous. So they can't leave this room what goes on in here, if that's fair. Can we make a pact on that?
Well, it's gonna have to if we're being filmed.
Let's go.
See, I'm just gonna keep moving. I'm gonna keep moving and see how good she is right here.
Okay, well, you're in good company then.
Okay, good. Just an introduction of myself. I've been with the Grand Junction Police Department for about 9 years, a little over 9 years. I recognize some of you guys from the hospital, bringing in drunks or whatever. I'm currently on a SWAT sniper, and we do a bunch of different things, and we are cross-trained in a bunch of different areas so we can do a bunch of different things. Right now my position is a TFO, which stands for a task force officer. So I kind of have two hats. Should we do a round of applause? Yes, yes. This is good. Welcome. Don't you hate that? I gotta be that guy. I'm sorry. And so my position is I'm cross-trained as a DEA agent, and then I'm also a Grand Junction Police Department. So it gets a little. I have two hats that I have to wear, and it sometimes becomes difficult. Jason, however, is the man, and he's just a straight-up federal agent, which is cool. Oh.
My name is Jason. I've been with DEA. I'm going to Tift. I've been around for about 10 years, as opposed to short-term 9 years. I've just done drug work my entire career. I started in Texas back in 2006, and then I moved around a little bit, and I came to Grand Junction about 3 years ago. With the DEA, our focus is primarily cartel-related work. Anything coming up for distribution, trafficking, and money flowing back south. So that's kind of where we do our focus. Because of that, we see a lot of different things, and particularly here in Grand Junction, we see a lot of different levels. It goes all the way down from the user, all the way up to those that do have the cartel connections. So we'll talk a little bit about that. If you want to pull it up, I just used yours again because I couldn't get my thumbs up to pull up.
So one of the things for this class, just on, let me see here. It seems like questions start to evolve, and then we answer questions. Write down your questions, unless it's like a super awesome one, and we'll be the judge of that. So don't ask a stupid one, because we'll make fun of you. But let's save questions. We'll do like 20 or 30 minutes, 20 minutes at the end. Our PowerPoint is not working, so I came with a Plan B, which is a more extensive PowerPoint. It's got a lot of cool pictures, which is cool. But I'm going to wrap through this very quickly. So some of the slides, if I just skip through, it's just because we don't have time for all of it. It didn't work. So let me just get, so I know there's nurses, yeah, EMTs, what is the realm of experience in here?
Oh, that's it.
Nurses and EMTs? Okay, so we have...
Just got hired yesterday.
Congratulations!
No, we all did.
Oh, yesterday you guys all got hired.
Yeah.
This is a good way to start it out. We brought some drugs, we're gonna have a good time this morning, right? Okay. The last class, we opened this up too early, of all our toys, and they came up here and started like, going, I'm like, freaking out, and then I told them they were all gonna get tickets for possession charged later. So, feel free to interrupt us at any time. We're gonna fly through this. The main goal of this class is to drug awareness for what you guys would see when patients are coming in, and how to recognize those symptoms. And if you have any other questions, just let us know. We're gonna get started. So the definition of a drug, you guys are EMTs, so you probably know that better than I do. Ecstasy, a lot of this stuff that we're going through is going to be very quick, just like I said, but the ecstasy is a designer drug. As far as the signs and symptoms, there's depressants, which are what? I'm going to start calling on people. Right. They depress, they make, well, how do they make you act?
Lethargic.
Okay, there's also stimulants. Ecstasy, okay? Ecstasy is another form of meth. People don't know that because it's not as sexy or whatever, because it's all this fashion drug, and they go, I don't want to touch meth, but I'll do ecstasy, you know? Then other things that we've been running into in this valley, this is an important thing, is the LSD. LSD is transdermal, meaning if you are opening a backpack in the, you're bringing a patient in, he's under the influence of something, or she, and you don't know what it is, and you see these little stamp-like things that are designer stamps, and you're like, hey, what's this? And then you start feeling funny, that's a clue, all right? That's a sign. You might not want to do that. So I know everybody's always wearing gloves and all that stuff, but that's one of the reasons. Shrooms, we got some of these last night. They're very prevalent. I guess one of the best ways to describe this is like seeing sounds and hearing colors. Nice. Does that make sense? Okay. So these are like a form of ecstasy, so they're doing like designer stuff. Moonflower. You guys know what Moonflower is? It's freaking crazy, right? So, fun story, I don't want to jump in here.
No, you're rolling.
So Moonflower used to grow in the median in North Avenue. And I don't know how many times, so if somebody comes in, it's December, it's snowing, it's cold. Yeah! All right! Yes! I like it.
Speaking of Moonflower.
He's way too calm for Moonflower. So if somebody's coming in, they're butt naked, they're sweating, they're growling, they're doing all this stuff, that's a good sign. It's like Moonflower, bath salts, anything like that. They kind of relate to that as a PCP as well, for like superhuman strength. So just an example, there are, like that I have been involved in personally. There was a 16-year-old kid, and he was on bath salts at the time, which is similar to the effects of Moonflower, and he was naked. It was January, and he was trying to jump into a canal and fight me and another dude who's like 6 times my size, and we were kind of struggling with him. So they definitely have that superhuman strength. They don't feel pain. There's no pain receptors. We're going to keep going. Heroin. Do you want to talk about heroin?
I can talk about heroin, absolutely. Okay. This is probably one of our biggest sources of concern right now. There's going to be 2 of them, or pretty much any opiate derivative at this point. Heroin and fentanyl are the 2 that are going to be showing up the most, probably for you guys out on the street. Heroin's starting to show up. Grand Junction, just the way it rotates out is 2, 3, 4 years behind anything that you see in the larger cities. Right now you can go down to Denver, and I can go down to Civic Center Park, and I can find heroin like that, and there'll be a group of guys milling around, and you just walk up to them. Somebody will approach you from about 50 yards away. If you just look the right way, you look at them, they'll say, what do you want? I just need a little bit of, what they call it on the street is the dirty bitch or the black bitch. And they'll walk back over to the porta potty that's sitting there at Civic Center Park, pull it right out from under there, and hand it off to you. And it's that easy. Here, it's not quite that easy, fortunately. But it is becoming more prevalent. What we do see is still black tar. It's got a nice little vinegar smell to it. It's gummy, it's ugly, it's nasty, and you won't mistake it. Okay? Although Rich and I have mistaked it, and we have purchased root beer. that they sold to us as,
That was my fault.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
my fault. I'll take that one. $200 worth of root beer, okay?
One of the things that we haven't shown, from the other presentation we put together, which we couldn't get to work. Basically, this is kind of where we're at nationwide on drug-related overdose deaths. Motor vehicles is blue, black is firearms, and now we're here with the red with drug overdoses. So we're on an uptick, and predominantly due to heroin and fentanyl. These guys are still dying with a needle in their arm when these things are coming out. It doesn't take much to kill you. So if you guys go in, you see that, if you breathe it, it'll kill you. Okay, so if you're going in, make sure you're using that PPE. And I'll get into some of the dosages here of what you're seeing on the street here in a second. As far as price and availability for heroin, they're still coming in grams. We have yet to buy an ounce of heroin from anybody at this point.
Came close last week. We got, well, I guess a quarter ounce.
Yeah, that's as close as we've really got. But so again, that availability is not much. In Denver, when I was working there, we could buy an ounce, on a whim, and that's a lot. And it would be in brown. It would be a brown heroin and not black tar. The difference between brown and black is just basically somebody breathing on it and getting the little chemical reaction so they can mix it up. That's about it. Again, you guys already know that it's highly addictive. As far as, I don't know what your next slide is.
I don't either.
Oh,
Hey, look at that.
Okay.
Prescription drugs.
But in terms of heroin and fentanyl, cartels now are moving from heroin to fentanyl, and they're bringing up bricks of fentanyl. They're doing this because of the potency. The level of potency for fentanyl is outrageous. So they can cut it even further on down the line, make more money for that brick of heroin versus the brick of heroin. So that's the reason for the transition. Still, it's easily moved and easily sold throughout the valley. As far as how they sell it, they break it down here into multiple different quantities. 1/16 of an ounce, which you'll hear as a teener or a t-shirt. If you hear somebody talking like that, they're talking either meth or heroin. 8 balls, halves, and ounces, which on the street they'll call a zip. So those are some of the street level terms that we have. As far as cut for heroin and fentanyl, I would have to go find. But I think they're using caffeine, MSM,
Yep.
inositol. Not as much for heroin, but more for inositol is more for meth and cocaine.
Root beer.
Root beer. Root beer. But some of those things, if you see those jugs of caffeine or MSM or inositol, you've now walked into a drug lab, basically. I mean, it may not be a lab per se, but you've walked into an area where you should, your senses should be a little bit heightened, be a little bit aware of what you're going to be breathing, what you're going to be touching, and then the reaction of the patient if you guys are walking in that direction.
So a lot of times, well, you guys know this just probably better than we do. So say for instance, guy gets an injury, and this is an experience. I'll just give you the example. So we had a lacrosse player, full scholarship, D1 school. He was a stud. He was like, I don't know, 18, 19, somewhere in there. He gets a knee injury, then he gets onto these bad rabbits and gets addicted. And then he continues to need more, and the doctors have not been educated probably with more in the last 10 years or so, because they didn't really understand the downfalls of opiates. And opiates are a prescription heroin. It's very addictive, just as you guys know. So then what happens is these are much more expensive than heroin. So then he can't, get his drugs, so he switches to heroin. Then he falls out, he becomes an informant for us, and now he's buying drugs and working off charges that we arrested him on when he was, a year and a half ago, a D1 lacrosse player. So those are very, very common experiences that we have come in this valley. I'm not going to go over the prescription drugs because you guys know that. On the Nod, that's awesome. Have you guys ever seen that? On the Nod? So on the Nod, some person is tripping on heroin or opiates, and they'll just be like this. So you're talking to them, and they're just like, boom. And then they're out for like 5 minutes. They'll hear everything that you're saying, but they look like they're asleep, and on. Their chin hits their chest, and they're out. And they're hearing what you're saying, and they could just pick up like 5 minutes later where they left off when they were talking. So if they're like all talking to you and they're just out, and then you just let them do their thing for a minute, because it's cool to see. Well, you guys probably can't mess with them like we can.
Yes, we can.
Good. All right. I like that. All right. That's good. Okay. Pacific Beach. All right. But then they'll pick up right where they left off. It's weird. It's very weird. So here's some of the different signs and symptoms of droopy eyes, and then the injection site. So there was this girl that she was 18. She was a heroin addict. She was like bad. She was shooting up left and right, trying to find every vein, artery to hit or whatever. And one night she had dead veins. And you guys know what dead veins look like. They're all black and nasty looking. Well, she thought it was a worm in her arm. So she starts like digging out her vein, and she's trying to rip her vein out. Man, this is crazy. So those are some of the things to think about. Obviously, when you're on opiates, it lowers your blood pressure, right? So some other kind of things to think about. The withdrawal symptoms. I'm kind of a nerd, as you can tell. So I was listening to a podcast last night, and it was about war veterans. And this dude, who was a Canadian sniper, walked on an IED, blew his legs off, right? He survived it. He has no legs now. They hooked him up to oxys, and he became addicted. And so then, as the time went on, he got addicted to that stuff, and he said it was much harder for him to get off of oxys because of the 3-day withdrawals than for him to get blown up. So that's just, the withdrawals are very, very hard. God's nectar, huh? Right? We're going to keep going through these. So the methamphetamine, this is the predominant drug that we are seeing in this valley. At pound level or greater, feeling that, if you want to jump into, but so a lot of times how we're getting our meth in from the mail, and then also highway interdiction. So we have the Rain Man is what I call him. He's a highway interdiction guy his name's Mike Miller. He works for the Mason County Sheriff's Department, and he picks out a car and he's like, that's dirty. And he does like some Rain Man thing, and then he gets like 25 pounds of dope out of it. So it's crazy. It's literally no joke. That's what he does. He's a wealth of experience and knowledge, and he can just do that.
The nice thing about Miller is you can blow by him doing like 90, and if he doesn't do his Rain Man dance, he's just going to let you go.
Yeah,
So you
right.
don't even worry about it.
Don't even worry about it. But if he pulls you over, you're in trouble. You're in pretty trouble. He'll like create that in your car or something, you know? So these are some of the different forms. This is the most common that we see, and these are these little dime-sized baggies. So searching somebody's pockets or your in a, backpacks or your belongings when you're bringing them into hospitals or wherever you're at. These bags that are for jewelry bags. It's my jewelry bag. That's what we hear all the time. Those are dope bags. You're a drug dealer. These are methamphetamine pipes. Where can we buy those? Has anyone seen those before? Does anyone know what other names those are used or purposes? Those are incense burners, guys. Right?
Nobody spends time at the Emporium. Apparently nobody's at the Emporium as much as you are.
Okay, so let me inform you. This is interesting. There's shops across from Mesa State, or whatever it's called now, CMU. The Emporiums, there's those little pot shop kind of things where they sell the marijuana pipes and stuff. Well, they also sell tweak pipes. And they sell them as incense burners so they can sell them. But these are meth pipes. That's their sole use, but they do a workaround so they can sell them. Digital scales, and they're becoming crafty, right? CD case, no says I, okay? So, and then these are very common too that you could find in backpacks. Those are what's called payo sheets. Those are their professional accounting system for documenting their dope. These are all local busts that we've done. These are mostly how we find large quantities of meth. They're wrapped in some sort of plastic and then duct taped to try and just make it to where they don't smell. They're trying to make it to where the dogs won't hit on it, but the dogs will hit on that stuff. And we've bought 6 guns in the last 2 weeks, and one was a machine gun here. So they're out there and they're very prevalent, okay?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Do
And,
they
oh, we
make-
gotta rate it. I'm just kidding.
Do they make a lot here, or is most of it brought in? I mean, are there a lot of these meth labs in town?
This is a good question, Steve. You can ask that one.
And
See?
what's their address?
The last class there was a lady and she was all over that stuff. She was like, oh, how do I do this? And I was like, you know how. So, we do have labs here. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. We do have labs here. There's many different ways to make them. Oh, I'm gonna get crazy. Oh, see, I'm screwing it all up. You guys can see the pictures or whatever. But I think there's some good. Oh, I hope it's in this one.
I know. I don't remember
We,
seeing that.
we couldn't get this one to work. My thumb drive was apparently broken. So I couldn't.
Come on. Bear with me. I think I know where it's coming. Hopefully. See the how? Oh. Thank you. That was our presentation. So to answer your question, do you mind?
No, so basically what happens is, a lot of people have seen the chart. People don't make meth anymore too much. Every once in a while we get some backwoods character that's got a one-pot method, which is basically your liter of Mountain Dew or whatever that they stuff with different stuff, and then they shake it up, and then they get like a teeny bit of meth. Very rarely does that happen. It's all coming in from Mexico. Our source areas are going to be Arizona and California, occasionally Vegas. All trafficked, either people they'll go down to a stash house down in Arizona, go to California, wherever, they got to connect, bring it up in 1, 2, 3, 4 pound quantities. Or they use some mope to drive it up. The guys that Miller catches on the highway, their stories are always usually the same. What are you doing? Going from Arizona to Denver. Oh, I'm going to see my aunt. What's your aunt's name? I don't know. Where's she live? I don't know. Really? So yeah. So do you have her phone number? No. So these are the kind of things we run across a lot. Same thing when things go back down south. All the money goes back to Arizona and to California. And Miller hits those guys as well. They'll be coming back, going westbound, and they'll stop and say, "Where are you going? Arizona. Where are you coming from? Denver. Where in Denver? Don't know. Who are you seeing? My aunt. Okay." He starts building the stories, separates each person out. They'll get different stories. He'll get into the car, and then they'll find $20,000 to $80,000, stashed in a front fender wall. Be like, "Is this your money? No. Whose is it? Don't know. Not my car." Well, if I got $20,000 to $80,000, I sure as hell know where it came from. But that's the kind of stuff we see. But everything is brought in, and the purity on the meth, because of where it's coming from and because they have access to the chemicals at these super labs down in Mexico, is usually well over 90% pure meth, which is good. Is good for charging statutes and stuff like that. But in terms of the addiction and stuff like that, it's pretty strong.
Sweet. Real quick, this is kind of an interesting fun fact. Okay. So these patron saints, are you familiar with those for the Santa Muerte? Some of these saints, the Hispanic population dopers or drug dealers believe that these patron saints will protect them. And like this is Santa Muerte right here, or the Jesus Malverde. They're supposed to protect them on their drug traveling escapades. Okay, so we've come across before where they get pulled over, and in one hand they've got one of these cards or something like this, and they're just rubbing the heck out of it, like. And the other hand, they're like this, and they're just, that's a sign too. When they're doing something like, who does that, right? That's weird. So, they're dirty. Crack cocaine, we do have a stimulant, right? Okay. We do have cocaine here. It's more of the let you guys look at me. Well, we do have more of the Hispanic population uses that. It's expensive, so we don't see a whole lot. We already went through this. This chick is crazy, right? She just woke up in the morning. I'm gonna look like this. Meth. From the transformation of when you start to when a month down the road, a year down the road, and you guys have all seen these pictures. It's nothing new, but still, it's bad. This is one of the saddest things when you get kids involved. Last night we were on a search warrant right here down in the middle of town, and there was a butane hash oil extraction or BHO extraction lab. Now, for BHO stuff, this is where it gets a little tricky. But so marijuana is legal, right? Not for him, it isn't. It's a Schedule I controlled substance, which is bad. So this Colorado federal war of statutes is stupid, and we're trying to work through it, but it's very difficult on our end. So marijuana is legal in the state of in the state of Colorado. See, I'm a little loopy. I'm sorry. The state of Colorado, you can grow 6 plants. You can have 2 ounces, which is a lot. But then the doctor's like, oh well, he or she's in more pain, so they need 99 plants now. It's like, how do you go from 6 to 99 all of a sudden? So it's a whole business. It's stupid. So what they do with this BHO stuff is they take butane or some sort of gas. They compress all of the THC. They get a bunch of marijuana.
They can use something like just like that,
Right.
And it'll be a little bit different, but they'll pack it all with the marijuana shake, not actually the bud, but a lot of the shake that comes off the plant.
So they do that, and then they pump this gas, and they leak out all the gas, and it extracts the THC into this wax. So you guys have heard of like earwax or shatter, something like. It looks like earwax, and then they put it on a Pyrex dish, and then they burn all the gases off. Well, what happens when they burn all the gases off, and they're doing this inside, is these odorless butane gases go down to the floor, and then now they're very flammable. And so then when your refrigerator pilot light hits these gases, your entire house explodes. And we've had those very frequently in our county. I don't know if you, so it's a big deal. Like they will literally blow foundations or houses off the foundations. They're bombs. So last night, we had one of these. People are making, so when my daughter, she's 2, but say if she was 8, she comes to me and says, I have a stomach ache. Well, let me give you some marijuana in the form of wax or BHO extraction, which is way stronger. So that's what they're doing. They were making her use this marijuana because they thought it was good. So we did that, and it's sad to see, but that's kind of what it is. So this is a meth lab house. This is what we see in almost every tweaker house. That's how they live.
What kind of refrigerator do you have that has a pilot light?
He lives in a camper.
See, oven. How about we do an oven? Does the oven have a pilot light? Maybe. What else? Whatever.
Hot water heater.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See? All right. Anyway. So the marijuana stuff. One thing. One thing with the marijuana stuff. It's the exact same as alcohol. That's kind of how we've been equivalent. Thank you. We've been making those the same thing, okay? So when we find marijuana, we treat it as alcohol. And so, say for instance, when somebody's driving and they're smoking weed, it's a DUID, driving under the influence of drugs. There's different ways to test that. Some of the signs and symptoms of marijuana are what? Come on, I know you guys know. Nothing?
Munchies.
Munchies! There you go.
Orange.
There's a green, pasty, like burnt resin on their tongues if you have them stick their tongues out. And it's all like kind of like this pasty green burnt blisters on the backs of their tongue. Something for you guys to notice. Another thing too is they smell, odors, obviously. Their eyes. So say for instance their eyes, they get the redness in their eyes, but then if you pull their eyelids down, it's white. And then one of the reasons is because they'll use a Visine. Everyone uses Visine who's smokes weed, right? but the Visine doesn't get underneath the eyelids. So if there's these rings underneath your eyelids, that means that they're probably using weed. One of the ways that we can tell, which is super cool, it's called lack of conversion. So when we're out there doing the roadside, which I couldn't even do anymore, but I know how to do this one. So if I tell Jason, he's been toking it up big time. So if I have him watch the tip of my finger, and I make circles, just 2, and then I come in and he's still watching, and I'm watching his pupils at this point, and then all of a sudden his pupils go, pew, and they go out to different sides, it's a good chance he's smoking weed. I don't know why he does it, you guys are the medical staff, so. But, and then also too, eye tremors. So if I'm right here, we do another one, and you have them lean their head back, and you guys can do this too, their eyes will totally flicker. Inhalants, gas, some of the funny things is it's very sad because you can die very easily from this stuff, is inhalants of the paint. So the golds and the silvers with the high, is it toluene? So if they come into the hospital and they have these big gold or silver rings around their mouth, that's a clue. They're huffing it. And they can die very easily from this stuff. Drug packaging, it's common for like these little packages. And we saw in the meth too, they're little balloons. That's also for concealing body cavities. There's a lot of that stuff going on. You'd be surprised at how well they conceal things and how well they go the distance to try and make it so we won't find this stuff.
Yeah. The quantities on these are really, really small. I mean, when you're talking 1/16 of an ounce, 3.5 grams for the users that are going to be coming in and stuff like that, they are very, very small. So just be aware they're going to stuff that anywhere feasible, and I do mean anywhere. So just be aware of that and what you're getting into.
It's just this synthetic stuff. It's gone way down because it made people go crazy, but it's in synthetic drugs. So they take a plant material and then they put some chemicals in. Oh, I missed it. Where? Plant or labs right there. That's called the method. It's in a methamphetamine lab in a bottle. Okay, so that's one of the shake and bake ways to cook meth.
White residue. If you catch on white residue pretty much on anything, that's probably going to be meth. Even on your tweak pipes, there it is. Even on your tweak pipes, the white residue and the black burn marks, that's going to tell you what they've been into. Versus the marijuana pipe, obviously, is going to have the black-green residue right in here. So they look somewhat similar, but the white residue is going to be the biggest clue for you guys as to what they're into.
And then also these things right here. We've been seeing a lot of those, like especially last night we got some of those with the wax or the VHO. These are for like just the clear capsules that you can put together and put like echinacea or whatever you want in them, I guess. Well, they're using those. So if you see a half-empty pill that's got, it's like, man, that should be more full. Or it looks like there's something that's not supposed to be in there. It's probably illegal drugs. We're going to go through this very quickly. So these synthetic drugs, they take chemicals, they use a compound, they mix it together, and then they sell it. Like bath salts or this Salvia divinorum. This is actually a plant, which is kind of like a marijuana, but it's more of it comes up from Mexico and it gives you a crazy high. But stuff like this, this just could be like oregano or whatever plant-based, and they get the plant-based, whatever they're using, and they get some chemicals and they put it in like a cement mixer, and they mix it all around. Well, the problem with that is part of the plant, it's not equal, it's not controlled. And so part of it will be soaking in this stuff, another part won't be at all. So when they go and sell it as like incense, and then you ingest it or whatever, you smoke it, you could be getting a crazy high, which will kill you, or you could be getting nothing. Or the first one, you get nothing, and they're like, oh, I can smoke all this, and then you get the loaded one and you die. That's sold on the internet, was sold in the pot shops around here. The K2 spice is the same thing, and the bath salts are the exact same thing. It's just that synthetic compounds. They were actually selling a tiny little bag of bath salts for like $50 or $40. Who buys it? You don't do that, right? It's stupid. Ingesting it's the same kind of ways. You can snort those rolled up dollar bills. It's used for snorting or doing lines. Oh, I was telling you about the superhuman strength stuff and the LSD. These synthetic drugs make you like a zombie. Like, did you guys hear about that guy in Florida that got his
Yes.
face bit off? Like crazy stuff. That's what these drugs are doing.
So far, this guy, this guy, he ended up killing 2 individuals down there, had no real contact with them, and then started eating their face. The toxicology report so far on these guys, on this guy, has not returned anything. They are only suspecting that it's N-bomb, but they don't know yet. So you may not even know, and I don't know how quickly your guys' lab results come back or what you're thinking, but just so you know, some of these things may not even show up. And they may not be able to test for them yet, or may not be able to test for the specific drug that they're looking for. So if you guys are out there and you see something along these lines that may give the investigators a clue, just let them know as well. You know, if you see a packet of spice or you see something specific, just kind of make a mental note so that they can go back and grab it.
The pharmaceutical trends we already talked about, and the drug seekers, man, there's a lot of drug seekers. And that's especially important for y'all is that they're coming in, they're wanting more drugs. It's a couple of weeks. I don't remember. It was very, very recently where this dude went to the dentist and got some drugs. Then he went up to St. Mary's, got some drugs, started getting crazy, like got in a huge fight in the St. Mary's ER, and they just destroyed the room or something like that. I don't remember if you guys. So it's kind of a big deal. And like I said, with those withdrawals, that one sniper said that he would rather be blown up than have to go through those withdrawals again. Some of the prices, this varies like crazy, and I think it's usually $1 a milligram. So if you get Oxy 80s, it's $80 a pill on the street. So
That's if you've got an honest dealer.
that's if you got an honest dealer. We talked about on the nod, and then the withdrawals. The date rape drugs, we haven't seen a whole lot. We've seen a little bit in CMU, but not a ton. We're going to fly through this so we can get to the questions. One of the things with the horse tranquilizers is we do get burglaries of vet clinics because they're trying to get this stuff. Which is kind of, the street names, there's tons of different street names for different drugs, right? So usually X is most common for ecstasy, but there's tons, people come up with tons of things like Smurfs can be snacks. They just make that up one night when they're high, I think.
Just, with all these street names and stuff like that, you really want to just be on your toes because we're constantly deciphering code. Whatever you and your buddy come up with becomes their terminology. So we're constantly deciphering code when we're on, if we're listening to somebody's phone, they're going back and forth, and we're constantly deciphering whether it's going to be cocaine, meth, whether it's going to be heroin, pills, stuff like that. So if it doesn't fit, then it's probably code for something else. He's like, well, why did he just drop that kind of terminology? It just constantly ask yourself a little bit of why certain things would be dropped into a conversation. So we had code was a pizza. They were like, hey, I need a 7-inch pizza. Well, does that ever fit? So and what they were asking for was 2 8-balls, 3.5 grams each, which is a distribution amount. So you just if you hear anything like that where it just doesn't necessarily fit, that's kind of how code comes to be about, and those street names come about. So
Does anybody have any questions?
Sorry, before we get to that, I just wanted to go back real quick on fentanyl, if you're good with that.
Sure.
A couple of cases that have already been here in Colorado. We had a guy up in Routt County, and he died of an overdose of what's called U47700. Again, opiate derivative, comes in pill form. He popped the pill, it was powder, and it was over. It was pretty much instantaneous. It does not take much to kill you. 2 milligrams of anything like this is enough to pretty much end it for about a guy bigger than Rich. I think they calculated it out to be about 6'2", 220 is what 2 milligrams will kill you at. And that is 2 milligrams. It's not very much, but you really do need to be aware. Those masks, they're there for a reason. Please use them. The other thing is, the cartels are now getting into this game of pills. There's money to be made. It's easy money. And what they're doing is making pill presses. They've got these pill presses. They're using fentanyl, they're using heroin, and they're pressing them into pills to look like different things. One of them was up in Northern California. Do you guys know what Norco pills are or have heard of Norco pills?
We dispense them every day.
Okay, they're counterfeit. There's a bunch of them out there now that are counterfeit. And what's the dosage on a typical Norco pill for you?
5.
5 through 25.
Okay. The ones that they're finding on the street are anywhere from 0.6 to 6.9 milligrams. And so they're not, when they're mixed, these guys aren't mixing it for a dosage. They're just kind of getting out there. So people that are buying them don't know what they're getting. And same thing, they can be hard pressed or they can be popped like this. And if they're open, you got to know what you're breathing in. Please be very, very careful. You know, I had an incident last week. We had some heroin. I was just field testing it. Cut my hand, and the
Jason
heroin
was running around the office naked.
and I tell you this, it's a scary deal, you know. I was on the nod the rest of the day, actually. You know, Rich was messing with me the whole time. He said some inappropriate things. But other than that, but you know, please be careful no matter what you're doing. This stuff is very, very scary. So, and if you guys have any questions or anything like that about what you're dealing with, if there's a cop there, they have NIC tests. Have you guys seen the field test units? It's just you have one there?
Yeah. So what these are is they're accurate, but they're not court accurate. So they're not going to be like, oh yeah, 100% this is what this is. We have to get it obviously tested. But it's a little plastic case, and it's for different drugs. So this one right here is for codeine and morphine or an opiate, and you just put the drug in there, a very, very small amount, and then shut it, and then there's a little glass vial, which that's what exploded on Jason. Then he cut his finger, went through the plastic, and then he went into his hand. But then it'll flash a different color. So I know it's far away, but there's a yellow and a green, and then an orange to a red. So it has to go in the sequence of the colors. So the liquid that's in this glass vial will turn colors, and if it turns the right sequence, then it's a presumptive positive test that there's a very good chance that that's what that drug is you're testing.
At least enough to give you an awareness of what you're dealing with that time. You know, it doesn't matter if at the end it doesn't matter in court or charging or whatever else, but the primary goal there is safety. So if you have any questions, ask the cop that they're there. They're perfectly capable of doing that. That was one up in Routt County, U47700. Again, just another derivative, but again, powder form, stuff like that. And this stuff is starting to just slowly kind of creep in. So as you guys are out there on the street and stuff like that, you're going to see more and more of it. But right now, I think our main concerns are going to be heroin, fentanyl, and then those BHO labs in terms of just safety. You know, that pooling of the gas, ventilate if you need to, and follow your procedures.
What questions do you guys have? This is where it gets fun. Now you can ask us anything. Any cop stories or anything? Nothing at all.
I saw the news today. Oops.
All right. This is
There we go.
Where is it?
Yeah.
There was like 7 people, I think, in West Virginia
Uh-huh.
of heroin overdose. They
Right.
said they just kept coming in,
Yeah.
one after another after another. Yeah. And what is in heroin?
It's an opiate,
It's just an opiate?
It's just like morphine.
just like morphine. So that's the same derivative.
Yep.
It seems like we see it in cycles in the ER, like we'll see a bunch of meth, and then we'll see a bunch of heroin, and then we'll see a bunch of meth, and then a bunch of heroin. And it seems like I was talking to one kid a while back that he says, yeah, heroin's cheaper than meth right now.
Right. And so that's exactly what it is. Think of this as a business. This is all it is. So supply and demand, the economic chart. When the price is low, they're going to get it. Another thing like speedballing and stuff is what they're calling it, where they'll load up speed or meth and heroin and slam it or shoot it in their arm. So then you're getting a depressant or an opiate and a stimulant, and then it just totally throws your body all off. So you can imagine the destruction that it does.
Have you guys, I've heard it on like news reports and stuff, have you guys seen them trying to distribute Narcan for those overdoses so they can get themselves out of trouble and all that?
We are, well, we're supposed to be carrying Narcan. We're getting that given to us. don't know if they're gonna try to get that out to users and stuff like that.
It's supposed to eventually just be over the counter.
Yeah.
I heard they're putting some in prescription drugs.
I've
I
heard
know.
that the.
I don't wanna touch that, cause I'm not a doctor, I wanna kill that fool.
Narcan won't hurt you. If it's not an opiate overdose, it does nothing. If it's an opiate overdose, it reverses.
See, that just makes me nervous administering medical stuff, because I don't have a clue how to do it, but I think you just,
No, it's,
I mean, it's straight up Pulp Fiction style or something, huh?
there's a little cone, atomizer, sprayed in the nose.
No, that's not fun.
No, it's gonna come out just like an EpiPen. You just slam it in somebody's thigh.
We're gonna do it like.
Extra mainline, that's, I'd probably do it
Yeah.
if you could do it that way.
And so the initial thing is for Narcan is being given to us more like a tourniquet. So we'll eventually carry it on our vests, just like we do everything else. But it'll be for us primarily. If we walk into something that's dangerous, that way we can administer it to ourselves or grab our partner. So if Rich grabs it, I can administer it to Rich as well.
You do that for fun.
Sadly, the subject on the ground is the least of our concerns when we go in. So I have that probably on camera there too as well. But, you know, officer safety and safety of the first responders is going to be first. And that's why we're going to be given Narcan and then eventually, hopefully be able to administer it and recognize the signs and symptoms of overdoses. But we have not been trained on that yet, so put that clause in.
Sir, did you have a question?
Yeah, recently, you know, you guys arrested about 30 or 40 people and took this big group out.
Uh-huh.
How long, what kind of work goes into, you know, arresting all those people? What, 2 months, a year, 2 years?
So we started that
What's
case in the end of January, I think, and we took it down, so about 5 months, 6.
Well, it was long. It was almost nearly a year from the time
Yeah,
of the
that's
initial
true.
information. That all spun from, boy, that came about a year ago. You guys may have seen it. The young girl that was passed away up in Cactus Park.
She got cut up into a suitcase and thrown in the desert. That's where all that kind of stemmed from. So you're right.
That was like phase 2 of that case,
It's been a while. So they're long investigations.
and they are expensive. So they.
Anything else? Yes. You're ready for us to do the handouts now, huh? I need to wake up for the rest of the
Free samples?
Yeah, free samples. So, if you guys, so here's the deal, is that the last couple minutes or whatever, we brought some things up here and we can kind of talk about them now. Maybe we should just go through that and we'll show them to you and then you can come up and look at them after class if you want to do that as well. The marijuana stuff is a fashionable pipe deal. So these kind of fashionable looking things. Tweakers don't use these because they're expensive. Like these could be like $70 a piece for some glass. They don't care. They use these, which are $10 a piece. And sometimes they'll make them out of, let's see if I have a good light bulb. I thought I had like a light bulb or something. Anyway, tweakers will use them. They'll like we ran this the other day, bless you, a light bulb, pull out the filaments and all that stuff, and then just drill a hole and they'll use that as a pipe. So they're very, very creative. It's crazy the amount of time they think about doing how to use meth. They would be so much more productive in there. Like this one time, I'll tell you a quick story. This dude was a plumber or something. He became homeless because he started using meth. He lived down by the river, and he had an integrated heat system to where he ran pipe up from the river, circled it around in the floor of his tent so he had in-floor heating. It passed a fire, which he would build and heat up the water, and he would pump this. So he had an in-floor heating tent. And he spent, I would imagine, hours on this thing, like digging holes and all this stuff. And just these are the packagings. They have like little designs, like these have skulls on them, or you'll find like the naked lady or something like that. That's very consistent with the user stuff and the distribution. Let's see, these things, grinders, marijuana grinders, grinding up your weed so you can smoke it. Some of these things, one thing that's interesting, so right here, about a gram, sugar packet. So that's the equivalent to what we're saying. So when Jason was talking about, was it 0.2 2 milligrams that will kill a 250-pound man.
2 milligrams, sorry, 2 milligrams.
2 milligrams of fentanyl, right? So we're talking not a bunch at all, just a couple like sugar granules. And people are just dying. This right here is a spoon. These are very, very common in what we see. So it's on the spoon, and you guys come look at it afterwards. There's a little like piece of like a Q-tip or something and some residue on the spoon. And what they'll do is they'll put in their meth or a pill or something, whatever they want to slam or shoot. And they'll heat up the spoon. They'll use the filter to extract all the kind of impurities, I guess, but more just like to kind of filter the liquid before they slam it. And so these are very common. So if you find these in a backpack, and you're like, oh, that doesn't look like the normal thing, it's probably not. I think that's about it. So it was really cool. The lab let us check out actual drugs. So we bring like meth and coke and heroin and all these things. And they're like, we probably shouldn't do that anymore. Somebody in his jacket, but yeah. Any other questions?
So with the fentanyl, are they doing it like liquid, or are they doing, I mean, what's the most?
So I will tell you this. Any way imaginable that you can ingest something, they'll figure out a way to do it. So the options are pretty much endless.
We see a lot of people that come in that have the fentanyl patches that will wear them for a while, and then they take them off and shoot them.
Right. Right. I mean, a lot of times we'll see heroin users especially, they're shooting needles in between their toes just to try and avoid the track marks, which are those, track marks.
They're cat scratches.
Cat scratches.
Every
They're good
single
people.
one.
I tell Jason this all the time. He's a homewrecker.
Yeah.
They're good people. They really are good people. They just get into this stuff and it just wrecks them. Well, most of them are good people. Some of them are just. Never mind. I'm on camera. I won't say anything. But, any other questions?
Yeah, as far as using, I mean, it's gonna be smoking and injecting, I think is gonna be the primary way. And then in terms of how it's brought in, it's gonna be mostly powder. It's gonna be similar to heroin. So if you see that kind of stuff, black tar and brown powder.
You guys are more than welcome to give us a call.
Well, see, this one doesn't have my name on it, so, because this thing crashed, so. We'll leave our names and numbers right up here if you guys want. We'll come out and whenever, we keep our phones on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so.
If you have any questions or if I could really care less if you're in the ER or whatever and you call me up and say, hey, I was in one of your classes, this is what's going on, what do you think? It's fine. So.
Sweet, thank you.
Might regret that.
Yeah.
Everybody here works in the ER.
It's okay. My phone rings all the time.
It's better you guys than some of the people that, some of the snitches that we run.
So, quick story, all right? So, we got these snitches that are stupid. They're just dumb. So, this snitch is calling me, and he's taking a poop. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just pooping. What are you doing? I'm like, dude, why are you calling me like this? It's just weird. So, tweet is But yeah, we have some things that we could not even think of that happen that people do when they're on drugs, and you're just like, I couldn't even imagine or come up with something like that. So. Cool.
Can you tell them the story about Gateway and the helicopter?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Jason, he's like top secret Black Ops stuff. He's a big deal, but he can get us a Black Hawk. What's it like? It's fun. And we hang out the side of the windows with our guns and everything. But anyway, we had a marijuana grow on BLM land. And this was a very big grow. And he'd probably tell you better than I can because it was his operation.
Is this the one in Blue Creek?
So it's a canyon
Up Dolores,
between,
just north of, or south of Gateway.
right, south of Gateway, between Gateway and Atarita. There's a little creek, what river is that? The Dolores. And there's like a little island, and these Mexicans were being imported in just to set up a shop to grow weed, because that's exactly what's going on in Colorado. People are like, oh, it's legal in Colorado, so let's move there and grow it and then export it out, right? Says now it's easier. And so that's exactly what they were doing, and they had plants that were 15 feet tall, and the buds were like this, just freaking huge plants. I mean, they were more like trees, because their root system, or their trunks were about that big on some of them. They're big plants. And we had a total count of,
Well, the first one was, so there were 2 separate grows on 2 separate islands, managed by the same guy. The first one that was found by a prospector. He was just, they're out there, they're funneling, they're doing whatever they do when they prospect. And they see the piping, and so they bail out. Nobody wanted to tell anybody, and then like one word got to another person, and finally made it to us. Two BLM Rangers go out there, and they were just gonna scout the area, and all of a sudden they were up on, I think it was 4 guys that popped out, and one guy's pointing like bear spray at him, so that guy's actually likely to still be alive. So he points bear spray at the ranger, they put him under arrest, and we go out and we pull out. And when we prosecute for marijuana, we have to pull all the root balls. So we have to go out there digging with a shovel, and there were 1,251 root balls that we had to pull out that day, of anywhere from like 8 to 10 feet of these marijuana plants. It was a long day.
he had to count every one on video.
Yeah, it was kind of a mess. So that was the first one. After that, we kind of had the indication that there was a second one. So we go out, we do the same thing, go through the brush out there, and it's thick. We stumble on 6 guys, and we were able to get those 6 guys. After just kind of talking to them, we do the interviews. We figure out what vehicle was coordinating all this. So from there, we go and find the vehicle, and I slapped a tracker on under that. One day at the Family Dollar. He just pulled in, so real quick, just run in, throw the tracker on, and then we followed him around. We found some more grows, arrested them, and brought them in. But again, all that's on public land. So with DEA, we have a memo put out by the Justice Department that says this is what you can prosecute and what you can investigate in terms of marijuana. It's BLM land, it's cartel-related connections, organized crime, and distribution to kids. Short of that, if you're following state law, you're good to go. So that's kind of why we were after those guys. If you see us take down a group, recently we took down a group of Cuban nationals that were coming into Colorado. They were getting the 60 to 99 plant count. Usually they had closer to 99 plants, taking it back to Florida. Out-of-state distribution also is the other key component there. We did 5 search warrants. Grabbed those. We didn't arrest anybody on that. There was more associated crime with that, credit card fraud, stuff like that. They were putting skimmers into local gas stations without attendants, gas stations without security cameras, so they'd walk in. There's only 3 keys in the US to manage all credit card machines in gas stations. So they can pop them real quick. You can buy it on eBay. Go in, they put their skimmer in, they close it. They can do it in 10 seconds. You put your credit card in. When you get gas, now they've got your credit card number. And they had a ton of credit card numbers.
There's about 400, 500 victims in that whole thing.
And that was just in the town of like Cedar Ridge. So if we go after somebody, don't think, hey, DEA is big bad guys. You guys are going after marijuana guys. We have our points that we have to enforce, and there's going to be a reason. So
If you guys have a lab, or like you're growing weed in your house, and this guy shows up, it's not gonna be good. But if I show up, I'll just walk away, it's okay.
All right, thank you guys. Hey,
Thank you.
so let's take about 10 minutes. You guys can go up and look at their stuff, and then we'll come back and go over a few things.
We kinda went over, sorry, but thanks for your guys' attention.
Okay.
Thank you.